right, hey, what up, fam? How you guys doing? We're gonna start y'all with another episode. It's gonna be episode 4 of 20 to 40 podcast. Back with Aubrey, Steven, and our prospective homes, areas of expertise. We're gonna sit here and drop some knowledge. So we just finished the episode. I'm gonna kind of jump onto a different topic from what we just did in 3, and I just want to ask about a number that I already knew because I do real estate part time. Is the home ownership age for first time home buyers? It went from 28, like when we were younger, so like we were talking about what success looked like when we got older, like, oh, well, by 28 I'll have a home, all the way up to 40. So I'll have some follow up questions from there. But what's your initial thoughts on that? Because we know real estate's a huge component of financial freedom and really kind of pushing through life. So the fact that it's 40, where we're at right now, instead of the late 20s, what does that mean to you guys, and what does that mean for listeners and whatnot?
Damn, I didn't know it used to be 28, and I did hear now it's about 40. I didn't know it used to be 28. That's crazy. I think one of the biggest things is like kind of like Steven had touched on, like I think in our first or second episode, like when you're younger, you're thinking about, yo, does it have the pool? Does it have the gym? Does it have the, where is it at?
The
In
view.
the middle of all the craziness. And one of the biggest things I do wish going back is I wish I would have bought earlier. We lived in San Diego together. And I'm like, damn, what if I just got a spot in San Diego? Because the appreciation has been crazy. And I think number one, if you're moving around a lot, it is tough. But to be honest, you can make it happen, bro. Even if I would have just left a spot behind and rented it out, I could have figured it out. Like you can get a property management company. I could have had somebody in the area just take care of like the little day-to-day stuff for me. If I had a friend in the area, like, Sirod, you stayed local, be like, yo, bro, can you just go by and make sure they're cool? Like you could figure it out. And I don't think I got it until when I moved back from San Diego to LA. I spent about 5 years at this apartment building. It's called Medici. Like it had the basketball, or it had the pool, it had the park. Super
Yeah,
dope.
I went there. I
Yeah,
helped you
yeah.
move in.
My man Sirod helped me move from San Diego to. That's when you know who your real friends are, is when they help you move. That's how I always knew.
Well,
Uh,
driving the red top off Mustang helped.
yeah. So I'm in
So
the U-Haul. He's in my car Mustang. Drove all the way up with me and took the train back. I'm like, damn, that's your boy. That's when you know people are down with you. So big ups for that, because a lot of cats call me, be like, "Yo, help me move." I'm like, "Nah, man, I can't ask you to help me move because I'm definitely not helping you move when you move."
I
But
pay that.
I stayed at this spot for 5 years, and I look back, and my rent went from anywhere from 1,600 to like it starts to creep up to 1,800, almost 2,000. So at about 2,000 a year, right? Between 16,000 and 2,000, 1,600, 2,000 over a year, that's about $20,000 paid in rent. So 5 years that I was there was $100,000 I paid to this apartment complex. And I was like, damn, after I moved out, I only got pictures to show for it. I ain't got no equity. I ain't got no property. I don't got no tenants in there now that I can have paid me. I got pictures. And I was like, bro, $100,000? And that's when it was really mind blowing to really understand how that biggest thing in your monthly budget, our housing, adds up quick. And if it's going to an apartment, it just, after that 30, 31 days, there's nothing to show for it. You have nothing to show for it. And I was like, whoa. And I think that was a big wake up for me. Like, damn, bro, if I just maybe just gotten something, I could have $200,000 of equity, and how much that could have helped. So that was it for me.
Yeah, that age change, Stephen. What do you think about that?
it's honestly not surprising to me, right? Like if we just look at what it takes, since I literally just bought my house 2 weeks ago, right? Uh, in, Interest rates are high, right? So if the interest rates are high, that means and housing is also the cost of housing is also at an all-time high. It's like a double tax, right? So you got to pay the bank more for money, but then at the same time you're paying more for shelter costs when those shelter costs may or may not really be reflective of what the house is worth. It's all about supply and demand, right? Now, obviously, right now and it also, I think a lot of it also depends on the market that you're in, right? Like if you're living in like the coast or some of the big cities, yeah, I think you might have a better chance. But for me, like a person that I live in North Dakota, like housing here is already limited. So when you have houses going on the market, they're going to keep getting inflated, not only because maybe the house is worth that or the community's good or whatever, but just the simple fact that there's not a lot of houses to choose from. So because the supply is low and demand is high, because me and Amy were talking about this morning. It was like, who lives in their house for 30 years anymore on a 30-year mortgage? Right? Like everybody's just flipping houses. Like even if you're like, oh, well, I'll live here for 5, 10, 15 years, you're still never fulfilling your mortgage, and then you still may be losing money on the back end when you go to do that, right? Like a lot of people now that are selling low interest rates to go into a higher interest rate but less of a house. So it doesn't with just what the dynamics are with where we're at now in 40 and what you need just for income for the bank to even give you money, right? Like it's not like there's like, oh, anyone could get a house. You still got to go to the bank, and the bank has to approve you for whatever they feel that you're worth based on your assets, your income, and all that. And that's why I think this podcast, 2040 podcast, all of this that we talk about all goes to the fact of home ownership, because you have to play in all these different arenas just to get a house. But the fact that it's taken me this long to get a house, and I'm like, you know, but I'm 40 buying a house. So yeah, I think it's right on
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
on par with what has happened years of it going from 28 to 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the resident. Well, no, Aubrey, you got your license as well, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so, but I had mine since 2017. So for me, I saw all the myths and the numbers and the stigmas that about owning home ownership get broken when you talk to the right person. So nothing that you guys said is incorrect, but on the flip side of that, we kind of touched on it when we were talking about millennials and Gen Z. Is that it's still possible, and that'll get into my next question. A lot of that is, like you said, Aubrey, you really have to put your mind to it, though. I would say I started my job at 24. I never made less than $50,000 at that time. So there's no reason why at 28, with what was in the early 90s, late 80s, that I couldn't have done it, but I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do that. And like we said, because I wasn't thinking about, well, I'm gonna be, my high rise, 1800, all my apartments in Mission Valley, trying to have the coolest pool, trying to have the local locations so everybody could pregame in my house. All that stuff was important as opposed to, why am I paying $2,000 rent? How do I stop doing this and get into something that I had heard about, right? Home ownership, didn't really understand the value of it. And obviously the housing market from then to now has doubled. So it would have only been a 10-year, not 30 years that I would have been living there. But I'll just mention a few, but the USDA loan, everybody's like, oh, well, VA, they get zero down. I have to save. I always tell people, when they just talk to me, because I don't want to sell everybody. I just want to be that friend that knows the stuff. I'm like, USDA is for everybody and it's zero down. But you got to move into, a rural area, oh, you were only pre-approved for 300,000. Oh, there's nothing in San Diego that's 300,000. Yeah, there are. Have you ever seen the manufactured homes? It's not fancy, it's not the greatest, but it's a start. And those things go up in value as well, as opposed to sitting in an apartment wasting $100,000 in a 5-year span. So those aren't fancy, they're not flashy. So a lot of people just completely knock it off. There was an Instagram video where a dude bought a house for his fiance, and she just looked mad in the comments, were like, going off on her because everybody wants to be a real wife of Hollywood. How you say that? Real, I don't say real husbands of Hollywood, real wife of Atlanta, or all that. They want those big houses. That ain't reality. You got to start somewhere. And like you said, Aubrey, you could get the studio when you're in your late 20s, but you can't have all the homies over. Might not be impressive to whoever you're dating at the time because you live in a little box and your refrigerator is the size of a laptop. But guess what? Over time, that turns into something. So I think that's the lesson that people need to hear. I wish that's the lesson I would have hit home sooner. But home ownership wasn't that far away. It's just what I wanted. And you're not going to get what you want tomorrow. You got to put in the time and the effort for that. Did
Yeah,
anybody want to piggyback off that?
I think one of the things that really helped was my mom. Shout out to Mom Dukes, man. Moms really just help you out a lot. And she said something and it was like click. And she was like, your first home isn't your forever home. And I think for a long time I was on this, like,
It's gotta be.
I really wanted a home, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, the big home was a big part of my motivation. This was like out of a motor, it was maybe 80% of my horsepower, if not 90 to 95, like big home, because home represented family. And that's something I really wanted. And she said, yo, the first home isn't your forever home. You just got to start, like get something and get in there. And I was like, that was just a perspective I had never thought about. And then once she said that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I think one of the switches for me were, I remember paying rent and being excited that I paid rent, right? Like, yo, I got it off my back, like on the first, yada, yada. And then I remember asking myself, I'm like, Aubrey, why are you excited about paying rent? After there's 30 days and ain't doing nothing?
Yeah.
And I was like, you excited about the wrong things, homie. If it was a crib and you paid your mortgage, now you excited because you just bought more ownership, you have more equity. So I think that was that kind of first home doesn't have to be your forever home. And why am I excited about paying rent? At the same time, I was like, cool. Now I'm willing. Let's just go look, see what we can get in. Let's just make the shift. And then that opened the door for, okay, then later I can get the bigger crib, which ended up now I love my house and we're going to end up staying here and just upgrade this spot. Like, I don't even need the bigger house, because then with the bigger house comes the bigger mortgage. With the bigger mortgage comes the bigger, you got to work to pay this off the next 30 years. That was a whole, like, y'all want the big crib, but bro, like $1 million crib is $7,000 to $9,000 mortgage. Bro, I'm not trying to have a $7,000 to $9,000 mortgage for the next 30 years, because then that means, guess what? You got to go back and trade more time to be out of the house for more time, experiencing and enjoying it less. Like, so that's another thing I had to realize, like, yo, the big crib isn't quite worth it if what I really want is success is time, flexibility, freedom. So that was a big change for me.
Yeah, Steven, you said you just got the keys 2 weeks ago. Congrats again. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, like that perspective of why it takes so long and what people can do to change their mentality when they're younger?
I think that one of the biggest things that I realized is when you're younger, right? It's just you. So you're a single income person trying to find a home or a condo or a townhouse, whatever it is that you want, and realizing that getting this house, it's me and my wife. You know what I mean? We're dual income, right? And how that dual income then affects, what kind of house you can even afford from there, right? Because she's a paralegal, so we make pretty good money together, but that's why we could afford this house. And yeah, I wish maybe I would have got into something earlier or whatever. But for us, this is my first home, and this is our forever home. You know what I'm saying? Unless we decide that, when Summer graduates high school, I want to leave and we want to go somewhere else and we just get it. But this is it, which another issue is debt, right? I really had no debt due to the fact that I went to the military. So my post 9/11 GI Bill paid for basically all my school. I didn't have any student loan debt. The only debt I had when getting this house is the new car we bought, right? Which is an Equinox. So it's 0% APR. You know what I mean? So I'm not even getting taxed. I'm just paying straight cash for it. So, but these are things that I think all go into the homeownership, because at the end of the day, we all know they care about your credit score, right? And I think honestly, without the VA loan that I got, I don't know, because I got a 5.5% interest rate, right? Which, yeah, it's high compared to people that had two or threes like whenever ago, right? Like what, right before COVID. But I also know people that are paying upward of 7%. So 5.5 to me sounds way better, which then allows me to get a bigger house than, when you got four people in a house, you just want space. Like that's the one thing that you all have your space to do something in your house. And I think everybody is so different that I'm actually kind of glad I waited later in life so I could get my life together and then figure out what I want to do with my housing situation, because I was a person that moved a lot, from San Diego, New Jersey to Connecticut, then back out to North Dakota, and then back to California, and then back to North Dakota. You know what I'm saying? So I moved a lot. So having to buy a house for me actually would have put me behind the eight ball, just because I would have had to move and try to, you take a loss on something because I wouldn't have stayed in it long enough. So I think it all kind of depends on what your motivation is and what your long-term goals and perspective wants to be on where you fall in the home ownership category and what you really want at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk to the younger people because right now I think we're kind of still in what we've done recently and how it's worked out for us. But going backwards, the question is, why is saving hard? But I want to compound that with or combine that. I'm trying to use big words because I want people to think I'm educated. But I want to I want to intertwine that with
That was a good
okay,
one. No,
why is it
intertwine was good.
okay? Why is it hard to save? But how do you balance the saving? The 26-year-old who has a decent job wants to go to Vegas. We were in their shoes. You want to party. You want to be, man, 4th of July, Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, New Year's Eve. I mean, Jesus Christ. We give us a reason we're going. And that costs money. But how do you balance that? Do you just say, okay, pick one holiday? How do you tell a 26, 27-year-old, look, you got a good income. In the next 3 to 4 years, you should be buying a house. Here's how you save, but this is what you have to give up. Have that conversation for that 26, 27-year-old that's like, okay, like put me on game then. Convince me. Why should I do that?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna be honest, bro. Party all you want. Like, get it. Like, get it. Don't have no, like, kind of what Kobe said. And I
Yeah.
always liked it. He said, yo, when I'm done with basketball, I don't want to leave no stone unturned. I don't want to have no regrets. I don't want to be looking back thinking I should have done this and done that. Same thing with partying. Like, I don't have it. I got out of the club at 26, 27 because I've been partying and hanging out since about 16, 17. And there was no stone unturned, right? We did all the partying, Vegas, nightclubs, all of it. And I was like, cool. So enjoy it. I'm not telling you pick one. I'm saying go to all of them. Hang out with your boys as much as possible because those are some of the funnest times you'll never get them back. There was no party with my boys that I was mad I went to.
So
So
there was no compromise or balance. I mean, again, we could have went to Vegas and stayed at the Flamingo, my dog. Like, all I'm saying is, like, we didn't. Me and you literally paid 500 a night for, I believe it was
yeah,
Vidar. For
yeah.
Vidar. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. Don't
No,
tell these
yeah.
cats.
No,
You
I
got to
know what
tell
you
them.
mean.
Put them on game. Like, what's
So
the balance? Is what I'm
this
asking.
is what I would say, right? And this is gonna be
He
like
said, "No, spin that." I was like, all right, all right.
this is what I'm gonna say. 100%, right? If a babe is down with you because of the kind of shoes you got on, it's probably not the right babe for you. And to be honest, you got to get your game up, right? You got to come in like you're going to make the shirt, bro. It's a $7 shirt and you can be dope, right? You got to make how the jeans look. You got to make your cut and your energy. It's really you. And that's what a lot of cats don't understand when they're buying. Like all the name brand stuff is a little bit later on. Like, yeah, we had like some nice jeans that you would want to have cats know what your jeans are, but like the $700 shoes, we didn't do that, right? The crazy style shirts, we didn't do that. Expensive watches because it was you. Like you got to be the game, right? How you come in, how you look, how you feel, how you present yourself, your confidence, the way you speak, right? That's what is going to bring you all these things that you think a $700, shoes and, a nice car. Really, when you're in your 20s, babes are kind of looking at that, but they're really not. They're really looking at who are you. So the tighter you can keep your game, which is all in your control, the less you've got to rely on what I call crutches, right? Crutches are the shoes. Crutches are the car. Crutches are the chains. Crutches are the watch. These are crutches to take away from you. So you don't got to spend all that. And then on top of that, the thing is you don't got to look it, right? So many cats want to look rich. And that's the big shift you got to have is going from being wealthy to looking wealthy, right? If you understand that wealthy people, it's called stealthy wealthy, right? As you get in the game longer and you're going to meet this one time, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to be a cat with some old jeans, like a ruffled flannel shirt, some beat up shoes, and you're going to find out this dude's a millionaire or multimillionaire. And you're going to be mind blown. You'll be like, my bro looks like my freaking English teacher from 7th grade. Because the wealthy don't need to buy the shoes, shirts, clothes, or houses to look it. They are it. And then you're going to find out later when they go broke and they're living at their mom's house that the dude with the, all the name brand stuff, the Land Rover, the Jordans was broke. And they spent 80% of their income on the look. And it's going to have you be like, whoa, what I thought was rich and wealthy was actually the opposite. It's the opposite in this world a lot of times. And you got to be okay with yourself enough to be that stealthy wealthy. So many times we want to flex on Instagram. And I even feel, I'm like, yo, bro, I want to, you want to show people how good you're doing because you don't want to be left behind. And I totally get that. But one thing you got to really understand is that the more you show it, the less you are it, because now you've committed all these dollars to these things that go down in value versus the things that you're not going to open up your stock portfolio or your home equity and be like, yo, what's up? Look at the equity in this joint, right? Nobody wants to hear that. You can't carry that on your wrist. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, you got to be it and party too. No, you
I
don't.
know. Steven, can you kind of, what I was trying to ask? I don't know. Aubrey just turned it into, now you got to live this life before. The balance, man. That's all I'm asking is for the young cat who has the opportunity. The money we made when we were younger wasn't bad. So what's the balance that could have been changed to where we still had fun with our boys, but obviously the outcome is a little better than waiting till 40 to buy a house.
You know, for the thing is debt will always catch up with you, right? And when you're younger, I think you don't look at a debt as something that it's just something you're always going to have, right? And then realizing, there was a time where, I had a whole bunch of credit cards. I was just like, I'm not going to pay them, or you'll call them and they'll be like, oh, well, if you give us this, then we'll get, well, you know what? That's cool. But then I was trying to do an internship down at the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Fargo when I was in law school. And one of the things that they check in your background history is your, I guess, your financials, your credit worthiness or whatever, right? And so if you have these open credit cards that you've never paid on, you're not going to get a job because unless you then go in and pay for it. Now, at that point, I was at a place where I was like, I this this externship is worth more in value, even though I wasn't getting paid, to have on my resume that I gotta do this, right? And so then going through and then doing that. So whether or not, that balance of, my balance was I'm just gonna spend it even if I don't got it type thing. Well, that's gonna come and catch you and for me, it was 30s, right? Like I'm trying to get a job and it comes back on my background check like, hey, you got these open cases, and they're only going to give me the job once I show them and prove to them that I have paid these off and I have everything in order, because I'm not a liability now to the federal government that I might sell secrets or whatever, right? So really getting your debt under control. But then on the flip side, savings is awesome. My mentality now, when I get my paycheck and I see how much my paycheck is, like I never move my money. Like my wife might move it between our accounts, but for me, when I get my goal every time I get this paycheck is I have a goal and amount, like, first it was like 10 grand, then it got to 20 grand, right? And then it was like 30 grand. Like how can I watch this bank account just keep going up with me spending as little money as possible? Now, when I first got my job, I was buying J's and, I'm dripped out in the Crenshaw. So I was on Marathon. I didn't care. I got the Audi. I was like, but now it's like, okay, yeah, no one cares. Only I care about it. No one cares. I've never had someone come up to me and be like, yo, like, yes, some people are like, yo, I like your shoes. But no one's like, hey, man, bro, that's the coolest thing. Oh, you got oh, wow, your drip is mind blown. Oh, man, I love it. And it's just like, well, at the end of the day, this is for me. Like I want the stuff for myself. So, I get it. But at the same time, saving and just having the mentality of, you know what, I'm not going to try to spend no money just so I can see this bank account just keep rising and rising and rising. That is it, and it doesn't have. And I know a lot of people think it has to be a lot of money you have to save. Man, even if it's a hundred fifty, it's any little bit helps in a savings. So once you get rid of the debt as much as you can, and then try to switch your mindset to say, I just want to spend the least amount of money so I can save the most amount of money. And it's really that easy when you see what you can really cut out that you don't need, that you spend money on all the time.
Yeah, no, both of you guys drop knowledge. I think I'll hit it home as we wrap up this episode. No one cares. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, so you can have the fun and you can but the balance is understand that no one cares. I had a Beamer, I had the G35, I had the two-door Beamer, I had the Jeep Cherokee. I had way too many cars. But guess what? When I go in the grocery store, nobody knows what you're driving outside. When you go into the club and you're trying to talk to somebody, or if you're at the basketball court, you're trying to impress some of those guys, nobody knows what you drive outside. So you're spending all this money thinking you're doing something and no one cares. And like you said, the shoes and the jewelry and all that, I mean, maybe they might be like, oh, this guy might have, but they don't really care. Like they're like, I got my finances to worry about. I got my rent to worry about. No one really cares. And I think that's the whole stealthy wealthy point. I think those guys must have got to a point where they were like, showing off my wealth is not really doing anything for even me anymore. And it's not doing nothing for them. They don't care. So what do? We'll save my money and then me and my family can go do nice things. Or like Aubrey pointed out earlier, maybe I have a cousin who needs help finishing college, needs some money on books. Hey, here's 800 for your books for college. I mean, then that money's there for you to actually do stuff that actually matters. Because at the end of the day, was it Shein? Is that how you say it? Shein and
Yeah.
Temu? That's my shit. Because I still like the style, but the dude at the mall last week, we took Seven to go see Lilo and Stitch. He was like, "Yo, let me see your red 13s, your Jordans. How do you clean them?" I was like, "Bro, I got them from China. They're like $10. You know, they're like 25." And he looked at me like, "Why would you say that?" Because I'm like, "I don't care. I don't know you, and I don't care that you know these are cheap, rip-off, fake China shoes. Because I still like the style, but I'm not paying $400 for them." And yeah, Temu, Shein, nobody cares. So now I can get the style I want. I can still get a cool blue jacket, but it doesn't got to be Lacoste or Ralph Lauren or something. I can just go get it from Shein straight from the Chinese factory and rock the shit out of it. Yeah, and I'm good. So, did you guys have anything you wanted to add to the savings or the home ownership issues before we wrap up episode?
I think one of the biggest things is like you only got two levers, and this is like when we deep dive on a financial episode, is like you can either make more or spend less. The best thing is to work on both. But man, when you really in your 20s and in your 30s, you got the most energy, the least amount of responsibilities. Like this is a time to pour it on. Like this is the time to take the overtime, start the side hustle, have the extra job, take the extra shift, like learn the new things. Like cats be sometimes like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm like, bro, what are you tired in advance? Like, go out there and do it. You don't even know how you're gonna feel afterwards. I remember, like, because I started a business too, and I had a business where I would coach a lot of people on, right, starting their entrepreneurship journey. You can't be like, I don't know if I want to do that. I want to be like, what you mean, bro? Like, you broke. You ain't got no opinions, right? Once you broke, you can't afford to have opinions. You need to be working. Like, I don't understand cats that be broke and lazy. Like, that's not a good combo. Because if you can't be working hard in your 20s and 30s, when are you going to do it in your 50s? Bro, in
Or
your
when you broke. If you can't work hard when you broke, then what the hell? I mean, God forbid you had money. You just like
you ain't gonna do nothing. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid to work hard. Like you're not gonna break, right? You're not gonna overuse injury type things. Like, bro, you good. Let's get it. It's cool to be tired sometimes. So
yeah.
You know,
Steven, Jerry Springer, final thought.
one thing I wish I would have switched my mentality from when I was younger, which I have now, which really helps me like achieve. It's just thinking what my legacy is, right? Like, really, what do I want to be when I'm gone and I'm dead and I'm out of here and people are at my funeral? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind, right? One of the
Legs clean.
known
That's
as
what they gonna say.
but two is I want to make sure that I kept my family good after I'm gone. And these two things that we're talking about, savings, retirements, home ownership, that's also a way through generational wealth, right? That when you pass, your kids, your wife, your family will be straight when you're gone. And that money can be used to help them not have to struggle as hard as you had to struggle when you came up. And so everything goes back to legacy and generational wealth, and that's what I just try to put this on. And I think that's why home ownership is important, and getting your savings straight is important, and retirement is important, because all that goes to what your legacy is going to be when you pass and what you get to pass on to the generations of your family after.
Yeah, that's a great final thought. You're gonna die soon, everybody. So get your shit together. But that's gonna be it for us for this episode. Again, like, subscribe wherever you're watching this. Share it with your friends. Give us feedback. Definitely. I think I missed that even on the last episode. Feedback helps because again, we want to talk to you guys and we want to talk with each other and enjoy our time with our friends. But we're hoping that you guys listen and get something out of this. So, good night, peace, have a good weekend. We'll talk to y'all next time.
Peace.